All right, what's up, you dirtbags? My name is Luke Eggebraaten, your host of today's episode on the Dirtbags podcast. Super excited. We've got a big guest host today, and we've got the man, Dervin Witmer, joining in studio. Dervin, you're out in, where are you at, Chicago?
Yeah, I'm in Chicago right now. Yep.
And the traveling man, you drinking anything right now, or what do we
Yep.
got going on?
I'm on 75 hard right now, so no alcohol. So I'm doing Heineken Zero.
Heineken Zero. I've got the Athletic Brewing Upside Down Golden Ale. There
Cool.
we go. Let's see. Time of this episode. I'm on day 51 today. Are you a week behind me?
I'm 43, day 43.
Okay.
So just about.
Awesome. How's that been going? I feel like
Uh,
we're
it's-
on the home stretch.
you know, uh, it's been going good. It's been super good for me. I'm not a reader. I am a disciplined type personality, but I've sort of gotten off in the past couple of years, and so this really got me on a personal kick where I'm getting up at a routine really early, earlier than I normally do. Go work out, start my day with a shower, and get into the office and stuff like that. So that's been super good. I wasn't happy with some weight gains and stuff like that, so it's been just a good discipline.
Yeah, it's been really cool. We have a group message, of course, from the Wet Show. A group of us decided to do 75 hard together. So the group message is called 75 Wet. and And it's just so cool to see, the progress pictures. Like there's no shame, and it's just you toss them in there, and everyone's kind of updating each other on whether it's weight loss or weight gain in the gym, and reading books. Like we're actually reading books now, and
Yeah.
it's translated really well. For me, this is my second time doing it, and just kind of that kick in the butt I needed to make sure that I'm not veering off track. I started feeling myself veering off track and not being as focused as I wanted to be. And I feel like this just brought me back on the tracks, and we're ready to go.
It's been cool too with my kids. Like four of my kids are actually doing it too in a more or
Wow.
less. The boys for sure are, but my two kids that are playing volleyball, they're like, okay, we want to do it too. 14 and 15, and one's a girl and one's a boy, and they come to the gym and they work out and they're eating the diet and they're reading, and it's just like we usually do the second workout outdoor as a walk, to walk the dog for an
Yep.
hour or 45 minutes or something. So we've had some super cool talks, and they're like, you should make this a habit. So, you know, shout out Andy Priscilla, man, you brought some family time, and they're loving it. So
Yeah, that is so cool. Yeah, so I know that's been going well. I've been crushing these NA beers. So we but honestly though, most bars nowadays have them. Where
yeah,
probably 2-3 years ago is only O'Doul's. They've got some great options now. So I know a few of you Dirtbags listeners have been messaging me on like what my favorite NAs are, and not that they're on 75 hard, but they just thought instead of drinking alcohol, maybe try some of these non-alcoholic beers, and it's been really cool. I've gotten to explore quite a bit on them. The Athletic Brewing, I think, is one of the best, and just very consistent. But Dervin, couple updates before we jump in, because we got a huge episode. We had Dirtbags University. Technically, that
great.
was last night. What were your thoughts, and how did it go now that we're back? I think we took an 8-month hiatus. Had our first one back on leadership in construction. We had Herb Sargent, Alex Parker, Matt Studi. What were your thoughts on how the event went?
It was great. It felt like we never quit in one sense. I really liked the different perspectives of each one of the guys, kind of their strengths. Herb, you can tell, is really about people.
Yeah.
He talked more about taking care of his people, really, than he talked about the business. I mean, he talked a little bit about it. So that was cool to see. Alex and Andy, they're right in the thick of things, and, they're, you know, boots to the ground. And so it was fun to hear them. I really liked the transparency of Andy with his just putting the bid up there and saying, hey, this is how we itemize it, and all of that. So it was awesome to see. Just really good. I thought it was a really good episode.
Yeah, it was so fun to be back and just star-studded. Like we had 55 people on the webinar. By the end of the hour and a half, we had 53. And so everyone was just locked in, dialed in, had a great time. We already launched our next Dirtbags University sign up. So I wanted to make sure we touch on that. It's June 9th 2025, Monday night, same day, same time, 7:30 p.m. Central to 9 p.m. Central. The link is live right now. We'll have it in the show notes, but also if you just type in Dirtbags University on Google, we own that name. So you'll find it there. And then, of course, all our social medias will have it on the Dirtbags side of things. So go sign up. We're going to do limited seats again. So we'll open up probably 50 seats. Once those fill up, we want to keep it a decently sized group. But this is all on recruiting and retention strategies for construction leaders. We already have one of our panelist speakers locked in, the man, Thomas Hahn, president of Turner Staffing. And then we're going to announce the other two speakers shortly.
I'm
So
looking forward to that one.
yeah, it'll be great. I think it'll be so great to just dive deep into that one and push buttons on like what is working and what's not. And really, that is probably one of the biggest struggles in the industry is being able to hire, but also keep the employees and keep the good ones. So excited to see what we can put together there. So that's June 9th. We'll have the registration link in the show notes and of course on our social media. Dervin, we're going to touch on our sponsors in the middle of the episode. I am just too excited to get to our guest here. The man, everyone knows who he is. He's on Instagram. He's been a Dirtbags listener since day one. Just we haven't had his episode yet. So I am so excited to welcome in the man from Lakeland Septic Company, Josh Williams, to the studio. How we doing, man?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Heck
Cheers.
yeah. What do we
Mine
got
is
there?
not non-alcoholic. Mine is very, very alcoholic.
We got the A beer. That is awesome.
We'll
Josh,
get him to spill the secrets.
yeah. So you're out of Lakeland, Florida, of course. You've been in the industry for a long time. For people that, of course, on Instagram at Lakeland Septic Company, but for people that don't know you, give us the overview of who you are, where you're at, and kind of what you guys are doing in your business currently.
So yeah, we're in Lakeland, which is smack dab in the middle of Tampa and Orlando. Big growing county. I think it's ranked top 5 in the nation as far as growth right now, which depending on who you are, if you're in the industry, you love it. And if you're wanting orange groves everywhere, you hate it. Yeah, I've been in this. So I claim 19 years in septic because that's when I started as an actual job. But I remember driving a pump truck when I was 8. So I've always been around it, and I didn't really fall in love with it until like late 20s. And once I fell in love, here I am.
That's awesome. So 8, who would have run the company when you were 8?
So my dad worked for another guy who is that guy is still in business around here. And we were land spreading in his backyard is why I was driving the truck.
Okay.
Just a figure 8, emptying the truck out. And then his son would drive his go-kart right through that trail. So, immediately.
That's funny.
Man. So Josh, and then, so where you're at now, what I love about you and your company is you're so forward thinking and innovative. Like I mentioned, for anyone that doesn't follow him, go give him a follow at Lakeland Septic Company. I know at some point we're going to dive into marketing because you and I have talked before about this and, took a look at, your Google ads and your ad spend and your, cost per conversion. I'm like, dude, you guys are killing it. And what I love about you is that you actually know how to navigate that platform. You know how to jump in there. You know what your cost per lead is. So since I brought it up, let's jump into that a little bit now. But how have you grown this company? Even deciding on the name, like was all of this intentional to get to where you are today?
Very much so. The name, when you start a business, you literally write down every idea you have and everybody wants a cool name. I think one of the names on my list was like Rain Septic, or Empire. So it was always stuff like that. But
Diamond.
At the end of the day, I seen a lot of guys come and go, and I've seen the struggles. My dad he worked for that guy when I was 8, but he eventually started his own business, and I worked for him. And so I've seen the struggles as well, and I was very worried about that. And so at the end, I did all my research. Lakeland Septic Company was the #1 search term on Google then. I would imagine it has to almost be in our area. And nobody had it.
Oh
The
my God.
website's taken. Lakeland Septic is some guy up, I think he's in like Indiana or somewhere like that. But so the website is taken, but uh, no one had ever had it here. So there was no confusion. Once we jumped on it, it was all ours. So it was
Wow.
very intentional.
Man, that's amazing. And I think being intentional, I was just talking about this. So when I first started Phaser, it had a different name to it. And it is so important. I think that's still one of the harder things we had to do in business. But I read the book, The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, and he talks about building a business and building a company that's bigger than just you, the individual. And a lot of it sometimes comes to the name. If you're starting out fresh, trying to come up with a name like Lakeland Septic or Dig It Excavating or Phaser Marketing where it's not associated with one person. But of course, if you already are in business, if you're third generation, fourth generation, you want to kind of roll with that, but make it bigger than just the one person. So when you got Lakeland Septic Company, you jumped on Google, of course, right away. So what were some of the first steps you got to get going? Because taking a look at your Google business profile, you've got 169 5-star reviews. That's such a big piece to generating calls. So what in the early days, what were some of the things you did to start to get work?
Grinding
Mm-hmm.
for a while. The first thing I did I was still with my dad working. I built the website, #1, and I would come home from working with him. I pumped tanks for him. So, you know, pumping tanks is hard. And I would pump tanks all day, come home, jump on the computer and grind that out. I would start with one page of the website, get it. I used Yoast,
Yep.
and I, got the SEO on one page good, and I moved to the next page. And so by the time I actually started the business, the website had been good. It was up. It was working already. And that's it. I just grind it out and prepare for the worst. Prepare
Yeah.
for not getting any work. Because I set a hard date when I left my dad. It wasn't, hey, let me work for you, so I'm comfortable. It was the end of October. I'm gone. I'm gonna go, get this ready and just do it. And honestly, it didn't take by January. That was November 2019. By January, it was like a rocket ship. And I was by myself. So I was doing it all the work, all the drain fields, all the marketing, everything was me.
And then what
Oh,
was your first hire then after it was just you?
I had a guy that would come in as needed, a really young guy, and he would maybe work 2 or 3 days a week with me, and I would just go do everything else. I would only bring him in when I needed, if I needed somebody to grade or set a tank or something like that, he would come in. But I didn't I stopped pumping tanks. I did it so long and so many for my dad that as soon as I was like, man, I can market for drain fields, which is what I've always loved and always wanted to do. And I won't have to pump tanks unless I have to pump a tank for, the install or whatever. So we figure I say I figured it out to where I didn't have to pump a tank. And that kid would help me install. I'd go out and do estimates and just stay on the computer. I stayed on Google and just every little thing I could tweak. And Facebook ads were really, really big for us back when they worked great.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that was an interesting question. That was what I was going to ask you was it strictly Google? Did you add any socials to it? At what point did you then join in the social media side of things, or did you do that from the beginning as well?
yeah. So I'll die on this sword. I was the first septic company in my area to have social media. And we have a here in town we have a really big company. I'm not saying their name, but they're one of the biggest in Florida, and they didn't have one. They didn't do a lot of the marketing that they should have, and that was kind of my thing. Is I'm going to go into this, and all these other guys I've seen come and go kind of followed that same path. And my dad always would tell me when I would be like, hey, let's do this or let's try this. Well, they don't do it. So it must not work. And
Mm.
I refuse. I'm like, I'm doing everything they're not doing. Facebook was number one. Instagram, I still believe it's just for fun. It's so I can connect to guys like you. I don't really think it's a lot of advertising potential there. Maybe I'm wrong. Not enough for me to get rid of the fun part of it. But Facebook was huge. It was honestly, it was probably, I would say 10% Google ads and 90% Facebook.
Interesting.
What type of budgets were you spending on Google ads? And then would you just take it as like a full budget bucket and then put it towards Facebook if that was working more, put it towards Google ads and kind of just fluctuate, or how would you do that?
So in the beginning, it was small budget, almost nothing on Google because Google, as you know, can break you quick
Yeah.
if you're not.
Mhm.
I mean, you have to have it honed in. And it always scared me. So it was a lot of Facebook. And I would say, like if I went, I installed a new system and I would first, I would have a GoPro going the whole install, changing batteries the whole day. And I would go back and just snatch pictures from that. So I would have, a couple weeks worth of pictures and I would mix them up and post them. And I would probably boost 3 posts a week. And
Wow.
that budget might have been $100, and
Yeah.
it worked. I mean, at one point, I forget the number, but I mean, Facebook really, really launched this.
Yeah, I love that. And definitely it's changed a bit because you're right. Back in the day, and I always use the analogy of you want to pour gasoline on a fire, not pour gasoline on dirt. So if the post is going to do well anyway, organically, that's when you should boost it, throw some ad dollars at it. But if it's already not going to do well organically, those aren't the ones you want to boost. And so,
Yeah,
but that consistency, like you're casting a wide net there, and so one of them is you're gonna catch something, and but also you're getting repetition, you're getting practice of okay, what's working, what's not, especially when you're boosting 3 posts a week, and then keeping an eye on what your cost per lead is, because the tricky thing with Facebook, Instagram, and even Google ads is that the algorithms change, the cost changes, the competition changes, and then they can hike up their prices. And all of a sudden, if you're not taking care of your website and your mailing list and your own business and your referrals, I mean, you can get priced out of the market.
yeah. And on the Facebook side, I went in and it was back when you could pick like, uh, I want a guy, like you could pick occupation
Yeah.
to focus on. So I would do that. Zip codes was a big part. Anything that had a lot of sewer, I would cut that zip code out of the ad. And it was all messaging. So I wanted them to message me so
Mhm.
that I can talk to them. And I still try this. As you know, I have somebody that runs that stuff now, but
Yeah.
I still try to post as much as I can because I feel like when I post, I'm talking to them as just like I'm standing there with them. Like this is how they're going to understand what this picture is. Because
Yeah.
not everybody looks at a hole in the ground with some black tubes and you don't know what that is. And it's my job to show them what it is.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
easy. It's easier to educate in mass through social media than do it one person at a time. You can do both, but it's a lot easier when they already have that foundation where they've been following you, they've been learning a little bit more about the industry, and then when they do call you, they already have that built-in trust. You do it very well. Of course, Dervin and the whole crew does it very well. Anderson Septic does an incredible job. Like I text Brian all the time, I'm like, dude, I learned so much from your posts, and it's just so cool. Like anytime somebody asks for advice on like how should I post on social media, I tell them just nerd out about what you know. And it doesn't have to be strategic. It doesn't have to get cute or, do anything fancy. It's just nerd out about what you know. And those are the posts that do well. And really that you're just educating the people that are lurking in the background and kind of following your page.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the stories on Instagram is just more of a short attention span. Maybe do a little explainer of what you're doing for the day and why it's important, and a few key pointers before you cover up a system is just, I look at Instagram as just another branding tool, another way to be transparent, another way to stay relevant. Like when you talk to someone about a particular product, like say an Elgin sand filter system or something, you could say, "Oh yeah, well last week we did a system," and they're like, "Oh yeah, I saw those square things. I didn't know what they were." But have you found, Josh, that other people, other competitors in your area are starting to catch up with the website thing? And are you seeing um, sort of more competition in that regard? And then what are you going to do to stay ahead of the curve there?
So website wise, they all have terrible websites. All of them have Facebook. I mean, it was really quick after clearly like what I was doing was working. They were on it. I mean, but the thing is it was me. It was always me doing it. So they were paying, some 18-year-old kid part timer to come in and do it. And it didn't work for them that way. But website, nobody's even close. And I don't know. It's not me bragging about our website. I think I picked the right guys, and they're all on Google. Google Ads is a war zone. I mean, battling for that top spot. Everybody is on that. But yeah, Instagram. I don't think any of my local competitors are. There is one, but he's a little further. Not really a direct competitor. Every once in a while we cross paths. But locally, right here, I don't think any of them are. So as far as staying ahead, I like to think I'm pretty good at staying one step ahead of them, because I'm pretty, Instagram, you guys, James or Canadian Septic, like I see things that everybody else is doing other places, and I kind of implement. Oh, I like the way, like you're saying, you go out with a story, hey, this is what we did and this is why, or this is what happened. Little things like that. You see somebody else do it, and that's what I want to do. I want to educate. So I just take little notes from everybody everywhere. And that's why social media has been so great, is, learning from each other and not just competitors, because you're not going to learn from your competitors.
Yeah. Are you going out to any, speaking of learning from others, you going out to any trade shows or conferences or anything like that, like Wet Show, Con Expo, or any state associations, things like that?
Yeah. So, well, I went to Wet Show last year, missed it this year.
Boo.
Yeah, missed a good one.
It
Yeah.
Yeah,
was
I want to
great,
go
man.
next year. So, local, I'm on the board here in Florida of
Mm,
FAO, and we do a trade show every like July, August over in Daytona on the beach. So that's always fun. Literally just go over there and hang out with other septic contractors at the bar and
that's a good time.
at the beach.
And
Yeah, it's
then,
awesome. Do you have any continuing education requirements there for the install or pumping side of things?
Yeah, so in Florida, our license covers pumping and installs. So
Okay.
it's all one license. I have to have, as a registered contractor, you have to have 12 hours. And if you're a master contractor, you have to have 18. Um, so
What's the difference
I'm,
between a master and a?
well, I'm working on my master right now. Florida doesn't make it easy. I've had everything good and waiting on my tests since October. So, at this point, I'm gonna have to start studying all over again. But master contractor, we can do our own soil evaluations on new construction. We can inspect our own work. You can their work. We're trying to push it through to where. So right now on a drip system, that has to be engineered by a professional engineer. they were trying to push it through where a master contractor can engineer or design that themselves.
Okay.
Because of Florida's going through a lot of changes right now. So that's one of them that makes sense.
Yeah, we've been working. I'm part of the Michigan Septic Tank Trade Association. We changed the name this year, Septic Trade Association, and we've been trying to get a standardized code in so that we can make sort of an equal playing field for installers and inspectors and stuff like that. We already have training and continuing education for pumping, but not for installers and designers and stuff like that. So it's kind of a weak link in our septic code, but we'd love to see something more standardized because we have a problem getting, certain types of systems permitted, like say Sledgehammer or Elgin and stuff like that, because they're considered proprietary and there's nothing in the code that specifically says, yeah, here's the code for allowing proprietary equipment product. And so it always has to go through an appeals, or sometimes they can do it as a variance if the site has very little restrictions, but it's just such a work at Union County to get this type of new technology. So I'm kind of curious as to what is allowed in Florida and what do you use any kind of alternative technology? You said drip, so that makes me curious.
Yeah, Florida's tough. So alternative technology, there's a few. Geomat is one of them, but just like you're saying, as far as getting that permitted, if I were to present to my county health department, hey, this home's being built and I wanted to use Geomat, they would never. I mean, they give us trouble. They ask us why we're putting drip in when we put drip in. Yeah. So they even I just had 4 of them inspected today. They're all drip systems, really small lots, terrible soil. So that's why we did drip. And
you do any kind of what's your secondary treatment product that you use before you put the drip in?
So I like the Infiltrator NX, the NX series, the EcoPod.
Okay. Yeah, EcoPod. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just I've used Fuji. And it's nice because it's that, it's a really small tank, hole's a little deeper, but it's a small hole. There are things I don't like about it that don't make sense, like having to cut the lids off of the top of them. Mm-hmm. Just that should just come off. I know it's just that little thing, you're out in the field and you're like, I don't want to have to do this, or just little things like that. And I think on an ATU system, less moving parts, the better. So if we can figure out how to get that treatment done, reduce the nitrogen without anything, a spinning rod or any of that stuff inside of that tank, I think that's better. So that's why I like Infiltrator over some of the other ones. We don't have Sledgehammer. I follow their page. I see you do them all the time. We don't have it here.
Interesting.
Dervin, from your experience with Sledgehammer and Elgin, do you see that moving towards Florida, or is it totally different by state, by county? Like in your talks with those guys, do you see that they're making any movement or any gaining ground on any of these states, or how do you see it from your perspective?
Yeah, it's only going to gain ground everywhere because, we're in the 21st century, people, and pipe and stone is a thing of the past. I mean, I don't know what your situation is for stone down there, Josh, but during COVID, all the concrete companies bought up all the stone, and it was like, we couldn't get stone barely, or we said, look, I want 2 loads of stone. So it's like we started turning in our area to alternative stuff like Easy Flow and Sledgehammer and Elgin and stuff like that, because we wanted other options. And it was like, my goodness, people, you're making it so hard in each county. And then there's other counties in Michigan that haven't figured out, like Livingston County. It's over south of Detroit, or south of Lansing, and partway to Detroit, and they have it figured out. So it's confusing to me why some counties have figured out with the code that we have how they can allow for alternative technologies and how they permit it. And they have all the checks and balances in there to keep the maintenance contracts and stuff. And I bring that up to our local counties and say, you guys are so backwards. And they get really pissed at me. But I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm just telling you, there's some counties that are really forward thinking, and I'm going to keep bringing these systems. So, hats off to you, Josh, for, pushing alternative technology. What do you think is going to have to happen in Florida for you to see more of an openness to permit these types of alternative technologies?
Man, right now it's a really, really bad time in Florida for septic. We are going through a period. DEP is transitioning to take over septic and taking it away from health department. So in Florida, it's state code. Each county health department oversees inspections, permit, all of those things. But you can be, so I'm in Polk County, Hillsborough County is Tampa, and we're right next to each other. If you're over there, they might fail you for something that's not in the code book. And Polk County may pass somebody for barely cover. I mean, they won't even get out of the truck and check the work. So it's so different. And I'm hoping, and it's rough right now. Permit times are 8 weeks to get a repair permit. I've heard the transition in the Panhandle with DEP has gone terrible. So we'll see. It's like a year process of them taking over, but I'm hoping that when that happens, it does open the door for more things to come in the state, because if it works, it should just be allowed. We shouldn't, it shouldn't be, oh, well, this is how we do it. It's rock and pipe, it's chambers, drip. And, there are a few things here and there, but I mean, even with chambers, other chamber companies have trouble getting into Florida if you're not Infiltrator or ADS. So yeah, I just hope the door opens eventually, because Elgin, I know I've spoken with one of their salesmen. They're trying to get in Florida and have been for a while. And I want to try all that stuff. I want to try whatever works, because every situation is different. Soils, the space you have to work with. If there's, how they build subdivisions now, they're packing them in. So whatever makes sense for that particular home should be allowed, as long as it works and it meets all the standards and all that. So I'm hoping the DEP transfer opens that up, because as it sits right now, it's Infiltrator rules Florida, which I love Infiltrator. I love all of those guys. I use their products 100% pretty much. So I have nothing against, but they pretty much own Florida, and we do need some alternatives, because chambers don't work in every situation. They just, and drip might be too expensive for somebody.
How have you found with the ATU design that does the drip get clogged up? Do you have to flush it out? Because I know it's Sledgehammer, it's an AVG, so the level of the processing of the bacteria along with the aeration really does a higher level of treatment, and so we don't see that plugging up of orifices and stuff like that. So how are they performing in the long run? 5 years, 10 years.
So I don't have
data on
5-year data.
Okay,
but I do have. We flush them.
Okay.
And so I have, when we go out to our maintenance visits, which for residential, it's 2 visits a year required. So when we go out there, we just open up the valves, we run it and just let it flush everything out as we're cleaning those filters and stuff. And it's just, I do that because I have had an experience on one that we installed. It was not the NX. It was just the Enviro Air. And for whatever reason, it's a commercial site, and man, they produce sludge. I don't know what they're doing in there, but it is high levels. And that was our one experience where I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to do to prevent this from being an issue. it's an extra 5 minutes, maybe,
Mm.
just sitting there and letting that flush. You can go and do something else. You can fill out your paperwork while you're flushing it. So
Hmm.
um, I don't know yet on 5 years. But I know we have several drip systems in town that have been there for 20 years and not had an issue.
That's cool.
Yeah. Josh, you mentioned, you do 2 visits per year mandatory in your contracts. Do you ever get any pushback on that? Or is it just, if we can't agree on that, I'm not even going to come out there?
Yeah, so Florida makes those the first 2 years of that contract have to be built in up front.
Mm.
But I will tell you that, so this is all new. Florida passed a bill last year. Yeah, last year. And so it's all new to people. And they hate it. They think it's government, government wanting their hand in everything. But
Yeah.
the way I sell it to them and kind of ease their mind is, listen, if we're coming 2 times a year, we're opening your tank, we're cleaning that filter, we're checking sludge levels, we're checking solid levels. You're not going to be hanging out Friday night with the kids and all of a sudden everything's backing up and you have to call an emergency pump out. And that's how I mean, it's one way to ease their mind is like, we're in this. And when that initial 2 years is up for them, they can re-up with us or re-up with somebody else, but we keep them pretty cheap on the maintenance visits.
And then I guess I'm curious too, like if you were to, is there any part of your business you're looking to almost phase out of, or another piece you're looking to bring in that you haven't yet?
Nothing that I'm looking to phase out of.
Hmm.
Bring in, yeah. I have a big interest for some reason in portable toilets.
Yep.
No one in my area that does septic does those. And I kind of have a plan with my dad's company. Hopefully, if I can, buy in one day, that's
Hmm.
kind of my plan is to use his business for that.
Yeah. Are you thinking more on like the luxury side or more the Porta John side?
Oh no, Porta John side.
Yeah.
I was in a
I'm,
luxury one today. That thing is nice.
dude, they're nice. We work with obviously a lot of companies that kind of do both. They'll do septic, they'll do the porta john, but some will do the luxury side, more in the event rental space. And one of theirs has a fireplace in the women's side.
Oh
Wow.
my goodness.
And I
That's
asked him, I was
amazing.
like, it was Kyle Richardson. I asked him, I was like, well, what does the men's have? Like a TV with some sports going or something? But it sounds like theirs is just standard.
Yep, just a urinal and a toilet.
Yeah, but I suppose too, because do you look at that more of a cash flow move, or kind of somewhere where you can diversify a little bit more, or is it sheerly just to see kind of what that industry has to offer because nobody is doing it?
Honestly, it's more of just see where we can go with that.
Yeah.
And also, it is a way for me to kind of give my dad something back for his business. Like, I'm going to put that his logo across the entire state. It's not something I want to do locally. I want to do porta potties everywhere in
Hmm.
Florida. So, it's just kind of one of those things. It's just a notch in my belt that I personally want to do.
Yeah. And then a question spurring off of that. Let's say you didn't have any of the equipment that you currently have today, and you had, let's call it like a mini excavator. Would you go down the similar path or would you go a different route?
No, I would go down a different route probably.
Okay, interesting. And the reason I asked that, because I know a lot of people listening, they're just getting started. They might have a skid and a mini X, and they're maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years in, kind of trying to find which direction they want to go. And curious if you want to unpack that a little bit more as well. Maybe what you would do in that situation, maybe what you've learned in the current industry that you're in, and just curious to unpack that.
Yeah, I mean, if all I had was an excavator and a skid steer, I would go hard on installs. I mean, new construction, there's so much, you have to do it cheap if you get in with some of these cookie cutter builders, but which we're in with some of them. You have to don't cheat. But if you can get in, I mean, you can make a really good living, just you and one other guy. It depends on what your goals are. I have really close friends here that have zero interest in growing. They do not want to grow. They want to keep it what they are, one truck and one helper 2 or 3 days a week. And then, that's not my goal at all. My goal is to grow. So it really just depends on what you're happy doing. Because if you're waking up every day and you're like, oh man, I don't want to go pump septic tanks today, it's going to suck. And so that's why I didn't pump when I started. I knew I was going to hate that. And once I figured out, all right, man, we're going to go install. And that's all I did. And I loved it. I did 72 drain field installations by myself the first year.
Wow.
I didn't get a helper until the second year. So
That's a lot.
It goes back to what you're saying too, of like the grind. Like you just had to put your nose to the grindstone. And you've talked about your dad and his company a couple times, and obviously how you got started. What did that look like when you made the decision to leave your dad's company? If you don't mind talking about that here.
It was hard, very hard. It was my mom's idea. I always throw her under the bus. It was her idea. And once she planted the seed, I was like, oh, like I didn't know that was an option. Like I always said, I want to go take my test. I want my own license too. And then one day she was just like, you should probably just take the license and go start your own thing. And once she said it, it was like, I could not stop thinking about it. And it was probably a month or two of me thinking about it every single day to myself and driving myself crazy, where I finally asked her, like, hey, how serious were you about that? And why'd you say it? And she's like, because you're going to do something different, and you should, and your dad's not going to. And she nothing against my dad at all. He's an old school guy, and that's it. And we kind of butted heads over like, what am I going to do? What are you going to let me do? And leaving was very hard, but it happened fast. I mean, she told me that like probably April or May, like around this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in business by November. So it happened really fast.
And I was going to ask that too, like, why did your mom say that? And you gave a great answer there too. What did that conversation look like with your dad, and how did you work yourself up to having that conversation? And you mentioned it was hard as well, but like, how did you prepare for something like that?
I talked to everybody else except him slowly about it to see reactions. And, I mentioned it to my brother. My brother got so mad when I brought it up because he worked with us too. And finally, I mentioned it to my dad, and he did not take it well. It wasn't like, oh, yeah, you go be great. It was like hurt. He has all these plans, but, it would have never worked.
Yeah.
Like I would have found something else to do. I probably wouldn't be doing septic if I would have stayed. It didn't work.
It's interesting that you say that, but in the long run, as a parent, and probably your dad today is one of your biggest fans, or I could be wrong.
100%.
Yeah. See, that's so cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of that transition of our kids becoming men and, having their own visions for things. And so I often hear that and I'm my kid's biggest cheerleader too. So if my kids have an idea, I'm totally behind it. Kid wants to go play soccer professionally in Europe, I'm behind it. The kid wants to start do marketing and videography on the side, I'm behind it. So there's all kinds of ways we can support our kids. And so I feel your dad, but at the same time, I had to guess he's 100% behind you and he's cheering you on.
Oh yeah. I think it took a while though. I think the hurt was there for a little while. But it's definitely not now. I mean, me and him are going down to the Keys to fish next week. So we, as far as, I mean, we're like best friends now, which we were
Yeah.
close then, but it was more like, you'd be over there and he'd be bringing up something I did wrong, or, complaining about work, or like, man, I just want to hang out. And that's all.
Yeah.
And, but no, you're 100% right. He is absolutely, him and my mom both, which my mom always,
Yeah.
but,
Well, women
they
sometimes are
both are.
smarter than the men. They
Yeah.
catch on to things like
She's
that.
seen something.
How many guys are working with you right now? What's
So I just hired two guys. Lost one. He went to do watermelons up north or something. So let's see. There's five, and then myself.
okay? And then so this is interesting as businesses grow. I'm always curious, what made you hire? And then did you have any like fears or anxiety about hiring? Did you worry about having enough work? And then how did you overcome that to where you are today?
Hmm.
Because six people is a lot more than just working by yourself.
Yeah. So absolutely full of anxiety. Still, I mean, I just hired these two guys, and my wife will tell you, I was sitting around at night. Should I do it? Should I, I didn't really need two, but I do have a reason for hiring the two, because I have some stuff. I know what's coming.
Mhm.
And honestly, we're kind of slow right now. It's really dry here right now. It's slow. So it probably wasn't the best decision I've ever made to hire two right now, but it's going to play out. I still stress it and worried about, will I have enough work? I'm telling these guys I can give them a paycheck. What if I can't, type of thing? That's always a worry. When I hired the first guy, he was not, he wasn't supposed to be what he is. He left Amazon. He was delivering Amazon packages. I don't know if he got fired or he left. Something happened. He just needed a bridge. He was a friend of my brother, and he was going on interviews while he worked for me. And
Mm.
he would come in 3 or 4 days a week, and then finally he's like, "Hey, I think I'm just gonna like stick around. Can we just work all week?" I'm like, "Yeah, we can. I can find, if you tell me that's what you want to do, I'll make the work, you know, come around. I'll bring in the work." And then it was probably less than a year later, he started talking about wanting to pump tanks, which
Mm.
we didn't do. And he got serious about it. So I went and bought a pump truck and got his CDL for him. And it didn't take him long to start hating pumping tanks either. So then I hired the second guy, and now now the first guy is my lead installer. Anything I mean, 100% trust that he's going to do great
Mm.
work. If Instagram later today, I'm posting something that he sent me today. It's a beautiful install. And then that second guy I hired is my number one pump truck driver. So, and again, I just send these guys out. Both of them, I got very, very lucky with both of those guys. Can trust them to like they love what they do, and they hate what each other do. So, they want no part of the crossover. They just do their thing. And, hopefully that all trickles down like that. The excitement for what we do is important.
Yeah. Yeah. Josh, when it comes to, you're talking about your first employee, then your second one, now you're going to have five guys plus yourself. How do you keep that mission or that goal or that culture intact now that you're growing, and you have been growing, of course? What do you think are the big drivers to build this team and have them stay with you as well and like be excited to come to work?
Well, the way I treat them, number
Mm-hmm.
one, I treat them very well. I pay them as much as I can afford to pay them, but also leave room. I want some meat to be there so I can keep giving them more. But I just I mean, if they have something they need to go do personally, go do it. I'm not going to punish you. They do more than enough for me to let them take a half day or whatever they need to do to handle it. It's never taken advantage of. But I would say most importantly is I am constantly talking about the future around them. I make sure to do it around them. This is what my goals are. They can walk into my office. I have my goals written on the board for them to read. I mean, they know what I'm trying to do, and I want them to be part of it. So they're at the bottom floor of this thing, you know, especially the first two guys. I mean, they've been around. I tell them all the time, I'm like, you remember when we barely worked? And now it's like, I don't know how we're going to get this list of work in. I mean, so it's fun. We've grown together, but they know what I put into it, and I appreciate what they put into it, and I make sure and show that so that they are loyal.
Yeah. Yeah. And so much of it too is sharing that vision, sharing those goals. I love that you brought that up. We've started to do something this year with our team at Phaser, and I give them a snapshot of our financials, and I give them where we want to go as a team. We all decide on it together, and then we do some type of reward and some type of consequence if and when we hit that goal. And then if we miss it, of course, we get the consequence. So I've noticed such a big shift and a change, because from my standpoint and my point of view, it's like, hey, if we hit this financial goal as an example, I would be more than happy to get all of us together on this trip, and then we can all work towards that. But then if we don't hit it, it's not like we get to go do some of these things. So I think just kind of planning together, getting excited about a common goal. And then what I realized too is having something to look forward to in the future, not just today. I think that has really helped with any amount of burnout, where it's like we're working towards something as well. And it makes those hard days and the grind a little bit easier when you know you're working towards something as a collective unit, especially.
Yeah. And I can't remember who you had on, but they were talking about kind of rewarding an employee. Like, listen, we have this job coming up. I need it done like in this time frame. And if we hit that, I'll give you this. And when I heard that, I immediately thought of my installer. Like, you know, you can't do that on every job, because we're doing a regular install. It might take us 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
So, but we have these bigger jobs. We're doing a lot of commercial work lately, and we have a lot of stuff coming up. Those, you know, hey, I need this done in 8 days. And that means show up early, stay late. You put in your time. Let's get this done. And, you know, I'll make sure you're taken care of. So,
Yeah. It was Dakota Hawk with DM Hawk Enterprises. And yeah, he talked about that on his episode. And I think you mentioned this a little bit ago too. You do need to leave some wiggle room in there too for future growth and for future bonuses and expansion. And so not strapping yourself too thin on cash, especially, but paying people what they deserve and what they can earn. And so I tell our team all the time as well, they deserve so much more than what I'm currently paying them, but it's the collective goal and the collective vision of we have some extra money so that we can do some of these bonuses and these extra things for you. And there's a lot of trust in that. I think it's risky when you're an employee. People say it's risky to own a business, but it's also risky when you're an employee, because if you don't get with the right employer that is going to take care of you, it's just as risky, I would say.
yeah, and I agree. I've told them several times the same thing. You can go somewhere else, and you can definitely, like, you can go to our competitor and they will pay you, maybe $3 or $4 more an hour, but they're not going to treat you like you're treated here. Like, these guys are family to me. So you go to that bigger company, and there's a lot of turnover at those places for a reason. Yeah. And it's because they're $10 to $15 million a year that they need. They're going to work you to the bone, and they don't care. They don't care how tired you are. You're going to come in, the next day, and it's going to do it again. If we have a really hard week here, I purposely am like, all right, Monday we're just going to clean up the yard. Like, we're going to organize trucks. Let's just take it easy. Let's go do the little stuff today, and let's cool down, and that works. I mean, because, you get tired and burn out. So it happens. You just got to make sure they see the same goal. They may not see the same goal. They may think I'm crazy. You know, I'd say a lot of crazy stuff. So they may think that. I don't know. But I share it and they know where I want to be. They know like what timeline I'm talking about when I say it. They know what I want to do with my dad, and all of that. They every time they're around my dad, they're on him too, you know. So they're working for me. They're trying to get my dad to sell.
How far is he out from retirement or selling, you think?
Man, he's one of those guys. He's gonna work forever.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of I don't know. He used to always tell me, make it make sense. Tell me a plan. So I came up with a hell of a plan. And he's like, I kind of like how I'm doing it right now. I'm like, okay. Well, you told me to come up with a plan, and here I am. So I don't know. I would say 5 years, and I don't see how he can do what he's doing for 5 more years. I mean, because he's working by himself, and he's 56, and he is out today. He was doing a drain field install by himself. So I don't know. He's an old gangster.
Yeah. Dervin, you brought it up earlier too with your kids, and obviously I know them pretty well, but brings me back to thinking, if I feel like there's so much support that comes from you with whatever they want to do, but also if they want to stay in the company, like you would support that, of course, as well. Do you have talks like that with your kids of if they want to take over or how that would look, or is it more of just letting them kind of they're younger, of course, letting them find their way, and then if they have that conversation, they can come back?
Yeah, we pretty much. I never told them or made them work in the company. Like, if they wanted money, I'd say, sure, you can, clean trucks, or you can mow the yard, or you can do this, that, and the other things. Both kids went off and did a few years of, college. The two older ones, and they came back and they're like, well, I don't necessarily have anything else that I want to do, and so there was always working for dad. So Lucian went and got a CDL, and he started pumping in the back truck. And it was interesting how after, I don't know how many years he was doing that, 3 or 4, he's like, I know everything there is about pumping now. And his interest is really, videography and working with people and stuff like that. And he said, I really like that. I'd be willing to go full time within the company as a marketing director. And at the time, I was like, oh my goodness, there goes one of my drivers, and now I have a full time, marketing person in house. And I said, okay, let's try it. He had a CDL, or he had ACL surgery for tearing his ACL and stuff like that. I said, perfect. Let's just do this surgery and put you in the marketing. And so I more let them find their way through the company. And out of necessity, they're working. Out of choice, they're kind of picking the role. My daughter was dispatcher because that's what she enjoyed, answering the phone and stuff, and we needed that done. And she was on track to get her CDL. At least she was like, I really want to get into a truck, And then she got married and moved to Mexico, which is great. And actually, they're expecting, so I'm going to be a grandpa in October.
Heck yeah. Congrats, dude.
Abuelo. But anyway, the conversation is, this is my baby, and I keep it that way. This company is my vision. It's my baby. It's what I want to do with my life. I never impose what I want to do with my life on them. You have to take this over. It's here. It's available. The jobs are here. But it's just been fun to see how the boys have kind of seen what a cool business we've developed, and they're like, this is worth being a part of. And they're actually taking it to the next level. I mean, Lucian's really taken our presence, our online presence, to the next level, and will be, for the next years. Isaiah, he's kind of in that phase of, if I leave the company, I'm going to leave the industry. He wants to do something different completely. which is fine because then it's like they go try other stuff. And I've heard many guys say that, their kids 10 years later come back and say, you know what? I like what you're doing. I think I could enter in here again and help build the business. So it's there if they want it, whatever level of participation, and they've made it better, their participation. And so that's where we leave it.
Grandpa Dervin. All right, man, October. That is so exciting. Congratulations. I feel like that'll be a whole nother chapter that you'll get to go down. So,
Yeah.
man, that is awesome. So Josh, I'm trying to think here. It was probably October of last year. I believe that's when the hurricanes came through, and that's when you and I were talking. With what you do, you were insanely busy, right? During
Oh yeah.
that time.
Oh yeah.
What does that look like? I live in Arizona, so it's the desert. But when a hurricane comes through, it was horrible what happened. What does that do for your business, and how do you operate that?
So yeah, this year or last year was rough on the
Hmm.
state because we had a couple of big ones. But I mean, so when one hits and the power, everyone loses power.
Hmm.
The city or the county sewer system's not working. So what we'll do is, and we usually go down to Naples, which is nowhere near us. And we'll go. What happens is a bunch of companies will go, and everyone gets on a manhole and a lift station, and you are manually making everything flow so that the sewage system is still going.
Hmm.
And so we'll go down there, and those trucks don't turn off. They're on 24 hours a day. We were down there for 10 days one time. Last year, it was quick because it didn't hit Naples hard. So we were only there, I think, 3 days. But, it's terrible to say because it always comes with disaster, but it's nice, especially for the guys.
Yeah.
They're getting paid nice, very well to be down there. But, and it's like it's like a good and bad. So
Hmm.
we'll go down there and we'll work, and we're leaving. All of our trucks are leaving here, but if the storm hits here, we're so flooded that we can't do anything.
Right.
So you can't pump a septic tank if everything's underwater. So it's nice because we wouldn't be able to work here at home, so we go somewhere we can. And then, man, last year while we were there, my phone, I got 97 phone calls on a Friday, the Friday after the storm hit, because we got the storm, the eye of the storm came over my house. So we were very much affected by the storm last year. But
Wow.
yeah, 90, it was right up there in one day. And so we had an entire week booked. We had just bought another truck. So
Hmm.
we had our second truck that we had just bought. And you talk about anxiety. I was having anxiety fits over buying that, spending that money. But I did it. And then this storm hits, and, we're down in Naples for a couple of days getting that, and then come back, and we have two trucks running full steam for a whole week. And I hate to say it, but it was nice,
Yeah.
as far as a business, but the community was devastated.
Who pays you in that situation? Is it the state?
So I think it's passed down through FEMA. I think FEMA pays the state pays the county, and the county pays a contractor down there who pays
Hmm.
us.
Interesting. Oh, so you're going through another contractor?
Yeah, it's
Gotcha.
the company down there that has the contract for the county, and they
Gotcha.
just kind of call the companies that they've worked with in the past, and I just so happen to be one of them.
Yeah. In that situation, I'm trying to think of how I want to word this. All hands on deck, of course. Are there companies that want to get into that during that storm that
Oh yeah,
can't?
oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I
Yeah.
thought you
That's
were going to go somewhere else with that. There are companies that only do that. They're like vultures. But they
right.
work
That's
for FEMA directly.
gotcha.
So those guys are yeah, pump truck sales go up when a
Yeah.
storm hits. That time of year, Um, I bought my truck from Ironvac in Arkansas, and that he
Hmm.
was telling me that he's like, man, the storm. We'll have a guy call and say, I want whatever you have built. I'll buy them all, and then they just go and they just pump all over the state. It's crazy.
Wow. And it's every year, isn't it?
Pretty much. I mean, it seems like it has been. It's crazy. I mean, I don't remember. Well, I do remember a couple when I was a kid, but not as many as we've had lately.
Yeah.
I've had two. I've lived in the house I'm in now for like 7 years. I had two eyes come over my house.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, it's
Dervin,
wild.
yeah. Do you guys do any disaster relief things like that up in Michigan?
I mean, yeah, what we'll do is not really storm disaster relief, although if you have a breakdown of a lift station or if you have a sewer main break or something like on Sunday afternoon, I
Yeah.
was freaking out because I was in Chicago and the boys were with me. So we had two CDL drivers down here, and the city calls up and said, I need all your trucks because we have a sewer main break. And I like sent a text to the guys, and one by one, they said, I'm moving. Another one said, I have my kids. The backup driver said, I have the kids. I had one driver and another employee that said he can help, but he's not a CDL driver. So Jimmy, my foreman, said, hey, we'll get both trucks over there. I'll have Brandon load one truck while I go dump because it's just a few miles down the road. He can have the second one filled by the time, I'm back. And so he just jumped in and out of two trucks and the other guy filled them up. So it's crazy. So yeah, we definitely we get in on maintenance stuff and that pays very well as well. So we're we're thankful to be kind of on call for various small towns around us because they get fined pretty heavily. Like we had to even go back. There was a retention pond that had filled up from it. And the next day it was still, there was sewage over there. So we went and hauled
Mm.
another 24,000 gallons out of that retention pond so they could spread lime on it and stuff. So yeah, it's in their best interest to avert, just getting into storm drains and getting into the lakes and streams and stuff. And so we got to jump when they say they need us.
And there's usually no, like, do you have set storm rates or emergency rates that,
Yeah, for sure. So we have emergency rates and then per gallon. When we're doing bulk
mm,
hauling, we charge per gallon and an hourly overtime for the drivers and stuff. So
typically with both you, Josh, and Dervin, when it comes to like, is it kind of one of those things where it's a good thing when these bad things happen financially, but also it's just like, do your employees like the extra hours and the extra pay?
Oh yeah,
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
yeah, and it is bad to say it's good for business, but it is. And this past one, it directly affected my community, my city, my county.
Hmm.
The places I go fish were heavily affected. So um, that part was terrible, but I left. I wasn't
Yeah.
even here. So my wife was like running the generator because we were out of power, and I'm just making money, I guess is a good way to say it. But it is bad. It is bad to say, but it's very good for business.
Yeah.
No, but here it is. We are in the environmental health business. We are in emergency service. And so it's good in the sense that we're helping the cities, get back on their feet and all of that. Somebody's going to be paid to do it. And so we're here to do it. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
And we do a great job and be dependable if they call. You got every truck in line up as soon as you call. We'll rearrange our schedule if we have to.
Yeah. And there are guys who get to go and they take advantage of it. There was a guy that got sent home because they found him at a hotel sleeping when he was supposed to be,
Mm.
at his designated lift station. So, guys do blow that shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, you can't do that.
And all right. So we got another segment I want to jump into, Josh. Super curious because obviously you're very forward thinking, you're very innovative. I just love how you're running your business. we do a book segment. And so any book recommendations that you have, it's definitely been one of the favorites that we've started doing on the show. And so curious if you've had any books that have stood out to you through this journey, anything that you'd recommend to any of our listeners as far as a book recommendation.
So yeah, I love two books that have helped me with business. Never Split the Difference is
So
one of
good.
them. And Extreme Ownership is another one. Um, Outside of business, I always recommend this book to everyone. Is Chaos.
Mhm.
It's Charles Manson and the CIA. I don't know.
Hmm.
I love that book, but business wise, Never Split the Difference and Extreme Ownership have been great. When I first started, I actually read a lot of Gary V,
Yeah.
his books. I read the crap out of those books, man. Just to kind of, I wanted to learn as much as I could for what I was about to dive into as far as marketing and the social media ads and all that stuff. So um, I read a lot of him.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up those first two. Never Split the Difference. We just talked about that on the I think the podcast before this. Chris Voss, and then Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink. I mean, just
Yeah.
two iconic business books. Have not read Chaos though, so definitely I need to jump on that. And then for anyone listening too, I know that's the first time we've had that mentioned. Dervin, before I throw it over to you for your recommendation, mine would be this catalytic leadership. So Dr. William Attaway, he's actually one of my leadership coaches, and I actually just got to record a podcast with him today as we're recording this. So it was really fun over the last couple of years to get to know him, to read his book, and then to be on the podcast today. Um, he he has his priorities similar to how I would have mine, having his faith in God first, having his spouse second, then having everything else after. And so I feel like I really relate as a leader to him and his teachings in that book. Once again, that is Catalytic Leadership by William Attaway. So I definitely recommend it. Give it a read. It's a pretty easy read. And it's definitely like surrounding leadership and continuing to grow your company for the right reasons. But Dervin, any 75 hard books that you've been burning through here?
Yeah, most of them have been marketing related, but the latest one where I'm starting is called Endless Customers by Marcus Sheridan. Kind of like say what others in your space aren't willing to say, show what others aren't showing, sell in ways that others aren't selling, and be more human than others in your space are willing to be. And that was kind of my follow-up question with how are you staying ahead of the competition? But I think those are ways to do that. So on a personal level, I read the Bible every day. So it's just my walk with the Lord. Necessary life lessons helps me to know the Lord Jesus better and be like him. So those are kind of what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, very cool. It speaking of Marcus Sheridan, he I've been seeing that book all over the last couple days, and I haven't picked that one up either. He's incredible. I got to see him speak at the Dirt World Summit the first
Mm-hmm.
year, and I even told my dad after. I'm like, I don't know if you know this guy. He's a CSP and or CPS, I guess, and I was like, man, he just like captured the room and just so
Mm-hmm.
relatable. And I know we'll get to see him speak again this summer, but Endless Customers, I definitely got to pick that one up for sure. And then as we kind of wrap up here, Josh, thank you so much for your time. I know we're super excited to dive into this episode, and Dervin, guest host of the year, runner up so
Yeah, I'm
far.
vying for that. Come on,
Yeah, fighting
vote for
for
me,
it.
people.
You gotta beat out Brian Andronico with Anderson Septic, and
Yeah.
we have that unreleased episode that we'll be releasing. But yeah, definitely everyone listening, go give Josh a follow at Lakeland Septic Company, and then of course Dervin at Dig It Excavating and at Pump That Septic. As we wrap up here, Josh, any if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's kind of the best way if they're listening to this episode, if they have a couple questions, if they want to ask if you're going to Con Expo coming up, things like that, how should they get in touch with you?
Instagram.
Perfect.
Just DM me on Instagram. It will always be me on Instagram
Love that.
messaging back.
Love that. Yeah, I always tell people that it's like if there's one thing you should keep in your business is uh your communication, like your social media and having letting people know that they can access you if it's in a healthy way. And I think what Instagram does in this industry is most of the time you're not having clients reach out to you, Josh. It's other contractors. It's James Stixma, it's Brian, it's Dervin, it's me, and it's a lot more constructive. I see that a lot with LinkedIn as well. Usually the only messages I'm getting are very constructive, educational, or have a lot of value. And so I think just being available on there for you guys listening. Shoot him a message at Lakeland Septic Company. And then, Dervin, as we wrap up here too, I know I wanted to give a big shout out to our sponsors. So we have Charlie Huff. I didn't even mention this at the beginning, but he's our construction insurance legend. He for our Dirtbags University yesterday, he sponsored a $300 Yeti giveaway. So we gave that away to Jake Martin from JTM Site Development.
Oh, Jake.
It just, I mean, I'll say it. I'll ask him if I can keep this in. But he texted me after. I was like, dude, congrats on winning the Yeti thing. And he told me, he's like, yeah, we also signed on a $1.4 million deal tonight too during the webinar. I'm like, dude, it's just your
That's
night.
cool.
So I better ask him to make sure I can keep that in. And then so with Charlie, of course, I know a lot of you guys are using him, and I use him for my insurance, and a lot of our clients use him. But shoot him a text or give him a call. It's 385-268-9939. And then Dervin, before we jump off, want to touch. I know we talked a lot about Elgin and Sledgehammer. Elgin veterans. I want to hear more about the system you just put in or working on putting in. Is that correct? You're doing this for a veteran?
Yeah, we just finished it. We're going to release a video. It's going to be an interview with the veteran. It's going to be an interview with Eric Daniels, with Elgin,
Mm.
talking about their whole philosophy. But it was such a cool project. We tried to restore a system for a veteran because he didn't have much money. And
Mhm.
the county found out there was like a bootleg, like in our inspection, it showed two trenches, and then the third one was kind of a homemade trench. And they're like, oh, it's a bootleg system. We don't allow that. So you have to replace the whole bed. And I was like, oh my goodness, this guy doesn't have the money. What can we do? And I forget where I ran across. Oh yeah, we put an Elgin system in last year or something, and Drew, worked with us heavily on it. He said, hey, if you ever find any veterans, we're a
Mm.
veteran owned company. A lot of the family are veterans. They hire veterans. And if you find a veteran that needs a system, we'll donate 100% of the product for that project. I was like, sick. I know the perfect guy. So I went back to him and I said, hey, I've got a vendor supplying the pipe and all that fittings and stuff. And I have a vendor supplying Valley Farm Supply, then donated all the other products to it. And so all we had to do is put the system in. So we were able to credit him back the work we had done previously and give him an almost next to nothing system. And he was happy. We're going to interview him as a follow up, and kind of where he served and stuff like that and his experience. So it's going to be a fun video. But
Yeah.
love working with Elgin with that type of a mentality, giving back to veterans.
Yeah, that is so cool. And they've been nothing but incredible to us. And they sponsor the Dirtbags podcast so we can bring on big names like Josh Williams here.
Yeah,
Um,
they're
Josh, we appreciate it.
we just got to get Elgin in Florida now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we do. Please,
seriously.
especially if they're that cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is definitely a good push for them and to continue the innovation in Florida. But Josh, thank you so much for being on the show. Excited to keep this journey going with you. Dervin, always good to see you. Guest host of the year potential. Guys, we will see you on the next. Don't forget Dirtbags University, June 9th. We'll have the link in the description. And of course, if you just type in Dirtbags University or go to our website, sign up there. It's going to be a great one on recruiting and retention strategies. And excited to see you guys on the next one. Here we go.
Great to be with you guys.
Thank you guys.